Hi, welcome to Church of Aliens. So, in this episode, I want to talk about the recent video, about 2 weeks old, regarding the footage that was filmed by the USS Omaha. I think it was around July of 2019 off San Diego, and so it was a video recording of a UAP um, sort of moving along the water, and then about 1 minute in, it enters the water. And there was no wreckage found, and none of the unknown craft were recovered. This was a video that was released by Jeremy Corbell on his YouTube and Instagram. He's a guy that I've been really interested in for about 3 years. I've watched most of his documentaries, even the really sort of arty, like short 20-minute interviews on John Lear, and it's really funny how he's grown, and it's amazing how well known he is now. But so I was talking about this video that was released, and I've seen it everywhere in the news. I saw it on Fox News, CNN, on Australian news, even on local news. I haven't seen it too much here in the UK, but I think I have seen it on Sky News, being released as well. And Jeremy has also been interviewed several times about it. He didn't release any information regarding who gave it to him, but it is an official recording. And what I wanted to talk about a little bit was how these videos sort of indicate what UFOs sort of what they could be like. In one sense, you see them just gliding across the ocean and then just drop into the ocean. But when it dropped, it didn't seem like it was dropping like a stone into a well. It's sort of like it was sort of like jamming or something. Like it was on a little bit, then off, and it was something that kind of reminded me of when Tom DeLonge was in the Joe Rogan podcast, and he was talking about how when you see them from our perspective, they seem like they're dotting off into space, like they're sort of blinking in and out. That's what it sort of reminded me of. It was just in one place and then blinking somewhere else and dropping off into the ocean, which is very interesting. Actually, Lou Elizondo recently in some podcast that I've, what's it called? Project Unity. That's a great podcast, by the way. He was talking about there how it could be possible that these UAPs are needing H2O for their energy, if I'm not, misunderstanding what he said, but in a sense, like he was saying, they're sort of using this planet as like a pit stop, and they're using the ocean as well. They're hiding in the oceans and being always filmed by the Pentagon or by the Air and Navy near the ocean, because they somehow need water and H2O for their energy systems for the UFO. I thought that was really interesting. A very different perspective. I haven't heard that before. And I also want to mention a little bit how Stephen Greer recently put an emergency broadcast, a video sort of talking to his fans, asking them to share the video of him, sort of in a sense, ranting about Tom DeLonge, but mainly Lou Elizondo, kind of calling him a um, sort of a messenger of deception, like he's a liar and he's intentionally lying to the people to cause this false flag alien invasion scenario that he's been talking about for years. I remember him talking about that years ago, which could be true. I mean, it was a very interesting perspective because, in a sense, to the stars, Lou Elizondo and Tom DeLonge are really controlling the narrative, in a sense. And I can see how it could be both positive and negative. I mean, really, who has been controlling the UFO narrative for years has been the UFO community. And there's some crazy bonkers people in there with really sort of cult-like mentality of these aliens are some hippy-dippy aliens that want to show us love and all this stuff. It could be interesting, could be true even, but then it's really based around just the person who says it. Like Stephen Greer is almost like the guy, the guru that you're following around to have this experience, or David Wilcox, another guy that I just really don't like at all, and the other guy who was what's the guy, Corey Good, where he was saying that he was a soldier in Mars and he's traveling in time. Like, this sort of stuff gets crazy in the UFO community. So I understand why Stephen Greer would be upset and hearing about how Lou Elizondo is really in charge. Like, he's getting so much attention from every single news source. I mean, he's been interviewed everywhere. You just like Google Lou Elizondo, it's everywhere. He's got so many interviews, podcasts. He's doing amazing podcasts with just really very small channels. So Stephen Greer was quite adamant in his opinion that, you know, he's part of this alien false flag operation, and he's sort of at the helm of it. But really, like, his opinion is really based on really nothing. Like, he keeps mentioning he's got insiders from the CIA, but he never reveals any names. And I think that's just, it kind of builds distrust, at least for me. I mean, he keeps talking about how they're disinformation agents. Like, what's the proof? Who do you know who has told you that? Like, what do you know that nobody else knows except you, that they're lying, and their whole sort of goal, he's just lying to the people, to the whole world about these UFOs. So I don't know, I thought it was an interesting video and point of view. He did seem quite sort of pissed off or alarmed at all the media that Lou is getting in all these videos. But in the end, I think it's a lot better, because I do think they do have control over the narrative. But in a sense, it was needed. It was needed to have that authentic voice driven by data and science than just, here's my opinion on what the aliens are doing, and come with me, pay to have a retreat somewhere, and maybe you'll see something too, and you'll experience what I have been experiencing. I think that's kind of cult-like behavior. So I do think it's quite healthy what they're doing, like completely flipping it on its side and saying we're going to have this conversation, but completely based on data and science, and having credible witnesses from pilots and people that actually saw these, that are trained observers. I think that's is building a good foundation to have later on a deeper conversation about what these actually are, and the philosophy. What you could philosophize about what this means to the world, and where they come from and if they have a purpose here. I think that's later on, but right now I think it's more of a laying down a foundation to just have a conversation without being ridiculed. So in that sense, I quite like what's happening. I'm pretty excited to see what happens next. I know Jeremy Corbell recently uploaded the radar footage from that incident that I just mentioned. So that's like way better than having just somebody like a nobody telling their experience about an abduction or what they saw. I think this is what the world needs at this stage: data, science, and credible witnesses coming out and speaking. Um, so yeah, hopefully in the next coming weeks there'll be another video or something else to talk about. I've got so many things that I've been reading that I would like to share with you guys and see what you guys think about. I've been reading quite an interesting book by Malcolm Talbot on the holographic universe, which is really cool. It kind of makes sense in terms of what is happening with the UFO phenomenon. And as well, Ingo Swann, his book Penetration has been really wild. His story, how he got involved in remote viewing, and it's something that even Lou Elizondo acknowledged that he's been a little bit involved in with Hal Puthoff. So it'll be cool to talk about that in the next episode. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the short but interesting podcast, and hope to